Hello and welcome to another model kit unboxing. I'm looking at the Airfix B-29 Superfortress. So this kit was first released by Airfix all the way back in 1966, and its last release was in 2008, and it pretty much stayed the same all the way through, even with the decals. This particular release was from the 90s originally, so pre-Hornby days. So as you can see, quite a large kit. The original artwork still on this edition. Some basic information along the side. Series 7 kit. Here you can see still a Humbrol product. Required paints and the two versions and dimensions. So 205 parts, so quite a bit. So let's take a look inside. So let's start with the instruction sheet. So it's A4. The first page, some information about the original aircraft, and in particular about the two aircraft that you can model in the kit. So you have a choice between Eddie Allen or an aircraft called Jolton Josie. Page 2 is continuation of the aircraft information, just in additional languages. So we get to the plans themselves. So you basically have 16 stages, including the paint and decal guide. The last page actually gives you the basic instructions and the assembly icons. So section 1 is the aircraft interior detail. So as you can see, you make up first the cockpit. You've got 3 crew figures. Underneath is, I guess, the interior walkway between the cabins. And the section here is the rear cabin, which I guess, and these figures represent the gunners who operated the defensive guns by periscope, mostly. Section 2, 3, 4, and 5 then details the gun turrets and the assembly. And again, you have the option to allow the guns to be raised and lowered and the turrets to be rotated. Now, section 5, you're beginning the assembly of the main fuselage. And here you're assembling the bomb bay doors, which again, you can open and close. The reason, of course, is that, as you see in section 7, the kit comes with a full bomb complement. So you're assembling the bombs into the bomb bay racks and then adding the cockpit, cabin and the interior walkway. Section 8, adding the bomb bay racks and bombs to the other half of the fuselage. Section 9, you're assembling the nose wheel and the rudder. Section 10, you're assembling the 2 fuselage halves. So you're mounting the gun positions, and you're also assembling the rear gun position, which also has the tail gun position, which has a tail gun. And underneath, then, you're adding the cockpit canopy, some additional details. Section 11, it's the main wings and control surfaces. Section 12, main undercarriage and engine nacelles. Section 13, the engine cowlings and propellers. Section 14, you're adding main wings and tailplane to the fuselage, followed by the engine cowlings. Section 15, it's the undercarriage wheel bay doors. Firstly closed, then alternatively open. And also you can model the aircraft with a crew entry ladder at the back, as you can see there, which also usefully serves as a stand if you can't cram enough noseway into the front, if you want the wheels lowered. Finally, the paint and decal guide. So the aircraft is essentially all silver, umbrella 11, with some black along the front leading edges of the wings and tailplane, which I guess is the de-icing equipment. And that, it's a pretty straightforward color guide. So next we have the decals. Now, as I say, these are the original decals from when the kit was first released. Well, they're quite thin, quite straightforward. They look okay. Jolt and Josie is depicted in reasonable detail. There isn't much in the way of stenciling or warning signs and so on. It's basically just the insignia and registration number or identification numbers. But I suppose they're not too bad. So next we have the parts. Now, again, these are the original parts. Or these parts have at least are unchanged since the kit was first released in 1966. So I suppose we have to bear that in mind, that it's a quite an old kit. So the fuselage, I suppose it betrays its age. You have raised detail, raised riveting, not much interior detail, or no interior detail. But nonetheless, it looks reasonably crisp. can probably see if I turn it that way a little bit, the riveting, the surface detail. See what the fit is actually like. So it seems to fit together reasonably okay. I mean, a little bit of filler here and there. We need to clean it up a little bit. The tail assembly looks a little untidy. But it's not terrible. We have the main wings here. Similar story. You have a lot of raised rivet detail. The control surfaces here. There's some flash. A little bit of flash in general on them. So, again, dating from the 1960s. But it's not terrible. This sprue you have engine parts. You have, as you can see, the parts of the bombs. You have separate wheels and tires, but no detail, of course, on the tires. Some flash. Here we have the propellers. Actually, the propeller hubs are relatively well detailed. Those are some of the interior bulkheads. Again, quite plain. Main wheel tires, no detail on them. And we have some of the pilot crew figures, which unfortunately are not the best. Detail on them is quite indistinct, so yeah, but you possibly may not see them that well. We have the engine detail, which is reasonably well molded. Engine cowlings. And control surfaces, tailplane, rudder. So here we have bombs. More crew figures again. Not a lot of detail on them. The armament, machine guns, defensive guns, and bomb racks, I believe. Looks like you have some ejector pin marks there. I'm not sure whether they'd be visible though. It's the other wing. Finally, the transparencies. So there is some paneling on them. They're okay. I wouldn't say they're fantastic. That's obviously the main cockpit canopy. If you can see, there isn't actually too much distortion if you try and read through it. So it's okay. And the second transparency sprue, that's the front of the cockpit. It's quite thick actually, and there's a lot of distortion, so you probably won't see much through it. It's not as good as the top part of the canopy. The other are the observation portholes basically, and also similarly the parts are quite thick, and so there's quite some distortion. So that is the Boeing B-29 Superfortress from Airfix. So again, a venerable kit, no longer on the market, but easily found secondhand. Despite its age, it, as I understand it, it does build up into quite a decent model. By modern standards, I suppose there's a lack of detail. The parts are a little older, so there is some work to be done cleaning them up. You have the raised detail, of course, as well. But all in all, for its vintage, I guess it's as good as it could possibly be for its time. So probably worth the investment if you were interested in building it. So thank you for watching, and see you again soon.